thank you all for coming to this presentation by Judith Black, I want to say friend of JCAN, but it's more than that. Like really foundational to a lot of the stuff that we do. I am so pleased that she is discussing native plants. And just gardening in general. As some of you know, I consider agriculture to be a very important and somewhat unsung part of what we need to do to mitigate climate change and, possibly adapt to climate change, as I think we kind of touched on. So I am going to turn it over to Judith and Jackson, and we will either schmooze or we will talk about native plants.
We
Please
will
take
talk
it away.
about retiring your yard. So, my friend Jackson and I are going to open this session with a little dialogue between Saint Francis and Hashem. He's going to be playing Saint Francis. Hey, Frank, you know all about gardens and nature, right? So, like, what in the world is going on down there on the planet? I mean, what happened to like the dandelions and violets and milkweeds and stuff I started eons ago? I had a perfect non-maintenance garden plan. Those plants, they grow in any type of soil, they withstand drought, they multiply like rabbits. I mean, the nectar from those long-lasting blossoms, they attract butterflies, honeybees, flocks of songbirds. I expected to see a vast garden of colors by now. All I see are these little green
But
rectangles.
it's the tribes that settled there, Lord. The suburbanites. They started calling your flowers weeds and went to great lengths to kill them and replace them with grass.
It's so boring. I mean, it's not colorful. It doesn't attract butterflies and birds and bees, only like grubs and sodworms. I mean, it's sensitive to temperature. Wait, do these suburbanites really want all that grass growing there?
Well, apparently so, Lord. They go to great pains to grow it and keep it green. They begin each spring by fertilizing grass and poisoning any other plant that crops up in the lawn.
Ooh, oh, but spring rains, and warm weather, that probably makes the grass grow really fast. That must make those suburbanites happy, huh?
Apparently not, Lord. As soon as it grows a little, they cut it. Sometimes like twice a week.
Cut it? Do they then like bale it like hay?
Well, not exactly, Lord. Most of them just rake it up and put it in bags.
Bag it. Why? Is it a cash crop? They sell it, right?
No, 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 sir. Just the opposite. They pay to throw it away.
Let me get this straight. They fertilize the grass so it'll grow.
Yeah.
And when it grows, they cut it off and pay to throw it away.
Yes, sir.
These suburbanites, they must be really relieved when summer comes. We cut back on the rain, turn up the heat, and must slow the growth and save them a lot of work, huh?
Um, you're not going to believe this, Lord, but when the grass stops growing so fast, they drag out hoses and pay more money to water it so they can continue to mow it and pay to get rid of it.
God, what nonsense. At least they kept some of the trees, right? That was a stroke of sheer genius. If I don't say so myself. I mean, the trees grow leaves in the spring. They provide beauty and shade in the summer. In the autumn, they fall to the ground. They form a natural blanket to keep moisture in the soil, protect the trees and the bushes' roots. It's a natural cycle of life.
Um, you better sit down, Lord. The suburbanites have drawn a new circle. As soon as the leaves fall, they rake them into great piles and pay to have them hauled away.
No, no. what do they do to protect my trees and tree roots and my shrubs in the winter? How do they keep the soil moist and loose?
Well, after throwing away the leaves, they go out and buy something which they call mulch. They haul it home and they spread it around in place of the leaves.
Where do they get this mulch?
Well, they cut down trees and grind them up to make the mulch.
God, enough. I I don't want to think about this anymore. St. Catherine, you're in charge of the arts. What movie have you scheduled us for tonight?
Dumber and Dumber, Lord. It's a story about.
Never mind. I think I just heard the whole story from St. Francis. So, our opening dialogue. In a way, I really don't need to say another thing, but I'm gonna. Transition your lawn, plant hope. How you can address the climate crisis, promote biodiversity, leave the chemicals and added nutrients on the shelf, nurture beauty, and possibly feed the neighborhood. So, what's the problem? That is the problem. Do you know how much of this there is in this country? 135 million acres of lawn. Oh, the story of lawns. So long ago, the lord of the castle would build the castle. Castle. And of course, they'd have to cut down trees and build their castle, but the forest was all around them, and the enemy could sneak up through the trees. They could climb the walls without being seen and attack. So, what did the lord of the castle do? Deforested, or in those days they called it cut down the trees, from all around the castle so they could see the enemy coming. Now, on market day, the agricultural peasants, they would be up to their thighs in mud. And so they developed this thing called grass. So the agricultural peasants could do what they had to do. And so they could still see the enemy. So here's the question. Do we still need to see our enemy coming? So here are some of the problems. Lawnmowers. So your traditional gas lawnmower, it's usually a combination of gas and oil. It's called a two-stroke mower, and it is one of the filthiest things on the planet. 1 hour of running that offers the same amount of emissions as driving 100 miles in a traditional car, not an EV, a regular car. I mean, nitrous oxide comes off it, a lot of really bad stuff. Yuck, mowing. Oh, everybody wants a beautiful green lawn. Oh, honey, look how pretty and green our lawn is. That's because you added a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus. And that's not natural nitrogen that you get from planting a bean or a pea. Those are artificial additives. You have to water constantly. Because the roots are shallow, you have to water that lawn a couple times a week, and we have been in drought up here since 2024. And the idea of using water to keep your lawn green, it's just aesthetics. People need water to grow food. And then in the left-hand corner, good old Roundup. You don't want any weeds in your garden. No, 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 no. You want your garden to be uniform, lovely, green grass. So you spray Roundup on any evil little weed that pops up. So here's the problem. Roundup kills a lot more than weeds. It kills people. It causes non-Hodgkin's follicular lymphoma. And this is so well proven that Monsanto, which has been bought out by Bayer recently, Monsanto pays out billions of dollars in class action suits. I have the Roundup cancer. I mean, God knows, I guess everyone around me used it. And of course, I joined one of the class action suits. And they would rather pay out money than stop selling something that they know kills people. Because it's only an economic issue for them. They still make more money selling it than paying out. And then finally, insect killers for lawns. Most people who grew up in the Anthropocene, i.e., on big city streets, aren't familiar with insects. They go, "Ew, bugs." But over 95% of all insects are incredibly beneficial. So when you throw this stuff on your lawn, you are killing all of the good insects along with the bad. And what happens? These are the things that happen. Have Raise your hand if you've heard of blue baby syndrome. You can put up your little electronic hand. So, especially in the Midwest, where they use a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus, but places in the suburbs with a lot of lawn, that nitrogen and phosphorus eats up the oxygen in the water that it runs into. And that's why you have things like blue-green algae blooms that you see in the bottom left corner of this slide. Nothing can grow there. It is toxic, and it leads to dead zones in the water. This stuff also goes into wells. And if you have a baby and you mix well water that has had a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus in it, your baby can turn blue because they're not getting the oxygen they need. It has been sucked out of your water, and that is authentic. In the middle, just think, how many people do any of you know who have or had Parkinson's disease? It's become endemic. I mean, when I was a kid, almost nobody had it. And now I have two friends who have died with it and a couple friends who have it. It's been tied to farming chemicals. And in your lower right, think of those lovely neonics, which our president has just said we have to continue using for national security. They are killing our pollinators. And those are all dead bees, and you will find them all over fields. It is just truly terrifying. Now, Chip Osborne. I live in Marblehead, and Chip is a Marbleheader. And he had one of the largest garden shops in town. Really nice guy. And he went to school during the Green Revolution. The Green Revolution was in the 60s, and it's when people were first discovering all these farming chemicals. Now, you and I both know every sword cuts two ways, but we were only seeing one side of the sword at that point. And it was about how these chemicals can enhance your crop output. They can get rid of bugs you don't like. They can do this, they can do that. Yay, chemicals! And Chip used them all. And then his dog, who he loved like life itself, and I knew him, and I think he liked his dog more than his kids. His dog died, and he couldn't understand it. He took brilliant care of her. He had an autopsy done, and she was filled with tumors. He really mourned that dog. He buried her, and he kept two of her pups. 3 months later, one of her pups died. He had her autopsied, filled with tumors. So he started to observe them, and he could see, God, his dogs were playing and sleeping in the fungicide runoff at the shop. He went green the very next day, organic green. And Chip, he got our town to pass an ordinance that all of our public land is maintained organically, and he is now the #1 organic turf maintenance guy in the country, consulting to the White House before this administration on a regular basis. So I'll just be quiet so you can, well, no, I'm going to ask you about this one. So when you were kids, there were certain bugs and insects that we all just loved and looked for. Call out an insect that you have not seen so much, that you saw a lot when you were a kid.
Fireflies.
What was it?
Fireflies.
Yes, fireflies. We used to collect huge jars of them. I can't see any out there. What else?
Grasshoppers?
Yep.
Used to see them in the lawn.
Right. In the
And
lawns that weren't all green from
But
chemicals.
I
praying
just want to
mantis.
I want to say that I do see fireflies.
Oh, good.
I and they only are out for 2 weeks while they're mating. Like it took me a long time to realize that why I didn't see them some of the
Ah,
time is because they're only making that light when they're mating. And now I look for them and I see them in a lot of places,
good to know.
especially in my backyard, which we do not use any of this stuff. But I just had to say that.
Good.
But um, yeah.
Praying mantises.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, I've only seen them occasionally, and I don't see enough butterflies, but I see more than I used to.
Yeah.
I mean, in the last couple of years, it's gotten a little
I think
better.
some people have added things to the chat as well. Our children won't have noticed this, but they are gone. And this is what else we are losing. Now, here's the thing, like I mentioned before, most insects are utterly and completely beneficial. They are pollinators, or just as important, they are food in the food chain. Birds. So a chickadee mother feeds her baby birds 7 to 9,000 caterpillars before they leave the nest. Now, they love caterpillars. They're lovely, eeky. There's no ectoskeleton, so the baby can just, gum it down, and it's really high protein. They don't grow on green curated lawns. Nothing grows on green curated lawns. We have a bird die out. Over 3 billion birds have died. And it's a couple reasons. One, we keep moving into their territory and building our human things. But two, they are starving to death. There's not enough food for them. And you guys understand the food chain. You can't leave anything out. Okay, you're going to have to hear another story now. This story takes place in West Africa. When he was a boy, the head man, he loved frogs. He would climb the tree and try to jump from branch to branch with the tree frogs. He would jump in the water and try to catch sedge frogs. At night, he'd hide behind a huge boulder as the Goliath frog climbed out of the water and bloop, bloop, bloop. That was as a boy. As a man, my people, come, come. My people, I am your head man, and I want to be able to make good decisions for you. In order to make good decisions, I must be able to think clearly. To think clearly, I need to sleep. These frogs are driving me crazy. Rabbit, all night I am awake with these frog sounds. So, my people, I ask you, I beg you, go find these frogs. Send them to your relatives in the city. Eat them, boil them, fry them, fricassee them, curry them. I do not care. But get rid of the frogs. And an elder walked up to him. My son. Yes, what is it, baby? My son, all things were put here for a reason. Yes, baby, and these frogs were put here to drive me crazy. So the people, they loved their head man, so they did as he asked. They didn't send any to the city because, frogs taste a lot like fill in the blank, And they ate them and they fricasseed them and they fried them and they curried them and they sauteed them and they ate nothing but frogs for 5 full days. And at the end of that time, on the sixth night, the head man slept like a rock. And the next night, like a rock. Third night, ah, oh, eh, oh, oh, no, ah, oh, ah, 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 ah. So the next morning when he said, my people, oh, come, come. And this time they were very empathetic because the entire village had, my people, these mosquitoes are driving us crazy. Yes, yes, go find the mosquitoes and kill them. But you and I both know a mosquito can replicate itself in 1/2 teaspoon of water. And after a week, there was no choice. My people, we will have to leave this place and find a new home that is balanced. Pack up your things. And the people left, and they walked past the huts they had raised their children in, the trees that had given them shade and nurture, the graveyard where their ancestors lay. And on the path out of town, the old woman sidled up to the head man and asked, my son, do you understand now? Oh, yes, Pepe. All things, they are connected. A story from West Africa. And indeed, all things are connected. And so, this program, Transition Your Lawn, Plant Hope. The goal is to get people to deep six their manicured lawns, and not just theirs, but to ask their houses of worship to do it, which usually have expansive lawns, to ask government buildings to do it, to ask businesses, and to plant one of these options. 30 to 40% of all land, I hate the word owned because I think a Native American person would have a heart attack when we say that, is owned. But 30 to 40% people have dominion over that. And they could be doing so much good because ultimately those curated lawns, between the mowing and the watering and the chemicals and the nutritional additives, they ultimately create more greenhouse gases than they absorb. So these are our five options, and I'm just going to run you through them. Oh, first of all, I hear you ask, wait, how do I get rid of my grass? It is really hard to dig up grass. I'd say don't do it. At the beginning of spring or the end of fall is great because then you don't miss a gardening season. All you have to do is layer cardboard or newspaper on your grass, batten it down with rocks, and by the next season, you will have soil. Isn't that cool? It's so easy. Okay, so naturalizing is our first option, and it's become really rather popular. Naturalizing means you are going to put native plants into that space that used to be a lawn. Native plants are awesome, and these are just some of the benefits that putting native plants in give you. My favorite, of course, is the one in the middle. Once the planting's done, it is so easy to maintain, relative to a lawn. It's pretty much self-care. You have to nurture it a lot the first year or two, pulling out the undesired plants, which some people call weeds. But once it really starts growing and filling in, there's not a lot of work to do. And these are all the wonderful pluses from doing it. Native plants are plants, and Deborah can explain this to you because we were talking about it before we started. They're plants that have developed in collaboration with the specific environment, the place you live, to flourish, to help nurture other plants. It grows there naturally. Now, one of the things you really want to do is to make sure that you have a keystone plant in there. I hear you ask, okay, Judith, what the heck is a keystone plant? I'll tell you. A keystone plant. Okay, first, here's the best thing. So, do you know how So every family has like one person who knows what's going on with everybody. Like, oh, eh, little nephew, he got caught smoking pot. Oh, Aunt Doris just retired. Like they keep all the family history and information. And when that person dies, there's a little panic in a family. And I'm sure you guys have experienced this. You go, who's going to get us together? Who's going to keep all the information? They are the keystone of our families. But plants, the natural world, also has keystones. And these are some keystones around here. And a keystone species is a native plant. It has an outsized impact on the local ecosystem. It supports an unusually large number of other species, insects and birds. A keystone plant species, when it's removed, it can have a really devastating effect on the food web because there's a significant loss of biodiversity. These plants really are utterly essential for maintaining a healthy, stable food web and critical to local ecosystems. Um, you'll see here there's a little note about homegrown national parks, Greg Ptolemy's outfit. And if you go and I think you're going to receive the handout for this that has all the references. But you can go to Homegrown National Park, you put in your zip code, and they're going to let you know what keystone plants are for your area. And just, you want to put in a few. Look at them. And keystone trees, deeply important, because a tree is the biggest bang for your environmental buck. And these are some keystones for New England. And these are the best trees for sequestering carbon. And, if you live in an urban setting, height is going to be an issue. So you're going to want to research which tree would actually, fit, and your neighbors in town won't go nuts. So like dogwoods don't tend to be monsters. Oaks can get huge, but oaks are the gods of the tree world. The mighty oak. Story time. This story is called Three Green Ladies. The three mighty oaks had grown on the top of the hill overseeing the farm for generation after generation. And every year at midsummer, the farmer would take his family up and they would offer each green lady flowers and thanks. Well, this year, all right, boys, good darling, come on, it's time for us to go honor the three ladies. I have the goldenrod, Papa, I have it. Oh, you're a good girl. Son, come on. Oh, Daddy, I don't want to go. Die, I'm almost at the next level. Die, die. Oh, I rue the day I gave you that thing. Out the door. Where's your brother? He's in the bathroom. I'm too sexy for my hair. I'm too sexy for my clothes. Son, get out of that bathroom. We're going up the hill. Oh, Dad, I don't want. I could get my clothes dirty. My hair could get out there. And up the hill, the farmer pushed them until they were standing before the three beautiful oaks. All right, son. Now you take some of the goldenrod from your sister and you offer it to the first tree. Oh, Dad, I don't have time. Look, I made that level. I'm almost at the next one. I'm going to kill everyone. Die, die, die. I can do it, Daddy. I can do it. Oh, go on, dear. First green lady, I honor you. I thank you for your leaves. They're awesome. They do picture synthesis. Photosynthesis, dear. Yeah, they do that. And they drink in CO2 and they exhale oxygen. I knew that. Good girl. And they shade everything and sometimes they have blossoms that grow really good food like berries and nuts. Hey, you're the nut kid. Oh, be quiet, you meanie. Thank you. Thank you for your leaves. All right, son. Now you give the goldenrod to the second green lady. Oh, Dad, I'm not touching that stuff. Are you kidding? You got me up here, but nah, no, I gotta keep this clean. You know what I mean? I can do it, Daddy. All right then, dear. Green lady, I thank you for your bark. Yeah, her bark's worse than her bite. Oh, be quiet, you dumbhead. I thank you for your bark because insects live in it and they feed the other animals like voles and mice and squirrels. Isn't that right, Daddy? Hey, it is, girl. And like our skin, you protect the inside of the tree. So vitamins and water and everything can go up and down it. I thank you. And if you look closely, you'd have seen a little piece of bark fall down right in front of the daughter. I'm not even going to bother with these two. Go ahead, dear. You can give it to the third tree. Third lady, thank you for your roots. They bind the soil to the earth and they stop the worst things that could happen with floods and landslides. And you have little, what do you call those things? Well, the roots have little bits of fiber on them. And they drink water, right, Daddy? But they also keep out bad chemicals. That's right, dear. And they grow in the ground and they grow in sillies, mycelium networks. Mycelium networks. Pretty awesome, roots. Thank you. And if you look closely, you could see a root go boop, boop, boop. And the three went down the hill. Well, what happened in that family is what happens in life. The children grew up, and eventually the father died. And unfortunately, as in the way of patriarchal societies, the first son got the largest part of the farm, the second son the small part, the sister got the vegetable garden. It was midsummer. Brother, it's time to climb and thank the three ladies. You crazy? I'm not doing that shit. Actually, I'm cutting that tree down tomorrow. I'm cutting it down. No, brother, you cannot cut them. They do such good for everything, and they've been with us. Are you kidding? I'm cutting it down. You know why? Why? Because I'm going to use that wood to make a fence, a wall that's going to keep bad guys out. But we've never had bad guys. Oh yeah, well there are lots of them. They're coming from Guatemala and Venezuela, and they want. But they sometimes worked on our farm. I don't care. They're bad, and I'm building a wall. I'm building a wall. So the next day, she couldn't stop him. He climbs the hill and takes his hatchet and through the cambium, through the heartwood, through the sapwood, to the pith. And with that, both the tree and the sister began to weep. And as the tree started to fall in the direction that the first brother hoped it would, he had not paid close enough attention. For one large branch is what we called a widowmaker. And as the tree fell, shh, ah! That tree became a coffin for the first brother. The next year, the sister said, Brother, would you like me to come with you up the hill to honor the two ladies? You kidding? That's stupid. Actually, I'm going up there and I'm going to cut that middle one down. No, brother, why would you do that? Why would you? Because it gets in the way of the view of the river. That's where I take my dates, you know? And I like it to be real romantic and nothing to be in the way. And there are those bugs in the outside. What do you call that? Bark, brother. Yeah, I don't want my dates getting buggy, you know what I mean? Argue she might, but the next day the second brother went up the hill. He had his hatchet through the bark, through the cambium, through the sapwood, through the heartwood, until he hit the pith, and the tree and the sister below both wept. But you'll know this, extreme weather is so prevalent now that a squall came, a land squall, and the winds and the rain started to pour, and the first tree when it fell had pulled up its roots, and as this tree started to fall, its roots started to come out, and with the rain pouring down and the mud building, the second brother lost his footing in the tree. Became a coffin for brother number But guess who owned the farm now? And the next year, the sister ascended the hill. She had a shovel tied to her back, a bucket, and goldenrod. Third Queen Lady, thank you for your roots and for all you do. And then she took the shovel off her back and she dug holes right next to where the other two trees had been. She filled them with leaves and loose dirt, and from her bucket she pulled 2 saplings, oak saplings. She carefully planted them each in one of the holes. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. Grow and be well. I will never live to see you fully grown, but my children will, and my children's children will. And there will be 3 green ladies here once again. 3 green ladies. Oaks are amazing. Oh, and I even forgot that the acorns become food. Yeah, the tannin is too much for us. But though Native Americans do know how to get the tannin out, you had to put it in flowing water for long amounts of time. But squirrels love them and they feed a lot of other animals. Okay, so that is that. Your second model are deep-rooted grasses. So some people need a lawn. They need it because they have little kids who are playing. They need it because they have soccer games. They need it because you want to have a church picnic or a synagogue picnic there. You don't have to plant the grass that has 3-inch long roots. You can actually find deep-rooted grass now that is fabulous and does many, many of the same things as a naturalized lawn does. And because of the roots, you barely have to water it. Most of these grasses need much, much less mowing. And you can allow the dandelions to grow and other things to grow that encourage biodiversity on them. One of my favorites is fescue. I grew it last year. The soft fescue is amazing. It is just, and you'll know you have to plant grass seed in the fall and it comes up in the spring. And again, like any turf, you have to take care of it for the first few years until it's well established. That's how it works. So you got to, pull the growths out of it that you don't want. You got to nurture it. But after a couple years, it is on its own. And the Pennsylvania sedge and the Baltic rush grass are examples of some other deep-rooted grasses. There's so many of them. And if you happen to live on the coast, native grasses are, poverty oatgrass and Pennsylvania sedge. I think I have that here. Baltic rush. They're all deep rooted. They're all so much healthier than the kind of grasses we use. This is my favorite, regenerative gardening. Now, having been a very committed organic gardener for 20 years, when I heard about this, I have to say I was a little suspicious. Okay, first, the pluses. All the things you see there are pluses. Humonga. Also, because it is a no-till, I know that's so hard to get through your head if you're a farmer or a gardener. No-till. You don't till. You don't dig anything up. You are saving the sacrum. And most of us are of the age that we really have to pay close attention to our sacrums. But it does all these other things as well. And these are the basic tenets. You don't disturb the soil. There are microbial structures that feed everything that grows. So every time you dig them up, you destroy those structures. So you don't till. At the end of the season, you don't pull things out. You just clip them at the base where the stem hits the ground. So you're always leaving a root in the ground. And then you're just constantly layering organic matter. Hey, Judith, where do I get all this organic matter? Well, you can compost yourself, or you can hire some place like Black Earth, or good composters in your community to dump a lot of soil or compost in your yard and start with that. And you don't want to use the bags because bags of compost or earth, they've been sterilized, so they don't have those fabulous microbial structures. Get the stuff right off the farm and have them dump it. And then every year you can just, I know someone from Cambodia was showing me that they just put their garden scraps on the ground, put some dirt on them, and by next year they are composted. So if you have that much room and you can rotate that way, that's great. Um, you want perennial crops, so they're things that will always grow. You want to rotate your crops. Why? Because different crops pull different nutrients from the soil. So you don't want to always pull the same nutrients from the same area. And you want diversity, diversity, diversity. So this we call companion planting. How many of you companion plant? Let's see it. So, for instance, carrots love tomatoes. They grow really well together. Tomato hornworms, you don't want them, but you don't need chemicals. They hate the smell of marigold and basil. So you plant them with the tomatoes and you don't need a single chemical. And almost everything is like that. The herbs give off such strong odors, and it's easy enough to find. You just get a companion planting sheet off the internet, and you'll see all these fabulous things that grow really well together. And I will show you. This is me in my garden. It is chaos, but I love it. It's my chaos. Behind, you can see there's Jerusalem artichokes, tons growing. To the left are blackberries that came from Jackson Gilman. He gave me, I think, two skinny branches, and they are now like that thick. And in the foreground, you can see Brussels sprouts growing with marigolds, growing other things. Everything is planted together, and I have never given away so much food. I gave like 30 pounds of squash. Okay, so to our local food pantry, I gave 30 pounds of squash, 50 pounds of sunchokes, another word for Jerusalem artichokes, about 50 pounds of tomatillas, and lots of kale. Okay, they didn't love the kale. They said, more kale? But hey, it's good for you. I've never grown so much food since I started regenerative gardening. It is amazing. Now, if you are the wild and crazy type and really not compulsive, rewilding is one of the best things you can do for the earth. And that is you bring it back to earth, i.e., you put your cardboard or your newspaper down, you have all this wonderful soil, and you just throw out seeds in the spring. And you can decide what you want to attract by the seeds you throw out. So if you want butterflies, what are you throwing out there among other things? If you want bees, what are you throwing out there among other things? It's really easy to see. Again, a simple Google search, but also I have this information in the handout. It's easy to see what you're going to want to grow depending on what you want to feed and attract. It's really interesting. So I was biking home one day, and a woman on a major street, her entire front yard had been rewilded. So I go up to the door. Now, nobody answers, nobody shows up at your door unless they want you to change religion or want your money. So she answers the door rather leerily, and I told her I did not want her to change her religion or give me money. I wasn't there about a political candidate. I wanted to ask her about her rewilded front lawn. Well, she lit up like the 4th of July, and we talked for an hour. And she shared, how even animals have come there to eat. And she has so many birds and butterflies and caterpillars and insects. It is rife with life. At the end of the season, it's a little sketchy looking if neat and tidy is what you like, but eventually you cut it back and you get more beauty the next time round. Okay, here's the bad news. We have all accidentally put in an invasive at some time or another. You go to the garden center and they say, oh, this is a great ground cover. They don't tell you it's an invasive. Not until 2 years, 3 years later when you find it is everywhere and you're like pulling like a maniac. So it's always a good question to ask, how aggressive is this plant? Bamboo, once you put it in, kiss it goodbye. On the left, this is, uh, I think what they call a Queen Anne's lace goutweed. Goutweed is terrifying. Looks perfectly nice above the ground. Under the ground, there are these red, long roots that just suffocate everything. Um, I unfortunately got goutweed by taking compost from my town. The what do you call it? They hate calling it the dump. It's got a different name now, but they do a lot of composting, and I don't think they got it hot enough. So when I use their compost, goutweed. So don't use their compost anymore. Just make sure. No sun? No problem. Grow moss. Moss is amazing. You know, it's 400 million years old. People say, but is it sturdy? Heck, dinosaurs walked on it. Moss is great. And what lives in it in terms of biodiversity? Spiders and ants and mites and worms, and birds like to use it for making their nests. Mosses, they stabilize microclimates and physical environments. They also drink in a ton of carbon. 6.43 billion metric tons of carbon for the same amount of bare soil. Finally, they're also an early warning system. If air is very polluted, moss won't grow. So you can buy one of those purple air monitors, or you can just see how the moss is doing, and you will know what is going on with your air. Oh, warning, warning. Do not plant moss on hills that you plan to climb, because once it's wet, you will slide all over the place. But here are some moss gardens, and in your handout is also a how to start a moss garden. And ferns are very happy there. Lots of things are happy. Okay, so the time is now, or the time is in the fall, and you don't have to transition your entire lawn. You can start with a piece if you're nervous. Take out a piece of it and try one of these options. One, I know most of us believe in systems, and we have to change systems. But given our federal system right now, it's not working. So this is something we have to do, and we can do this. Imagine if 30 to 40% of all the people who have dominion over that piece of land changed it. We could do so much good. We could be climate heroes.
We think about grasses and like when we're talking about like say the prairies, we sometimes refer to it as grasslands.
Very
But
good.
um like grasslands, somebody pointed out to me, they were never grasslands. They were meadowlands. And so like grass in and of itself is getting a bad name. Like so I mean, I don't love it, but if you're going, if for some reason you're like, yeah, I'd like to see a patch of green, then like it's actually like there's some integrity. There's a way to do it with integrity when you include like the flowers. Like don't think about grass, think about
Yeah.
meadows.
We are not dissing grass, we're dissing curated lawns the way we have them.
Do you have any thoughts about no mow May?
There's many thoughts about no mow May. Me, I'm all for it. You know, the less mowing, the better, and you're building more biodiversity into your ground. But if you're just going to go back to mowing it, you know, twice a week and adding horrible chemicals and additives to it afterwards, what's the point? So I'd say no mow May is dandy. Make it a lifetime practice by changing what's out there.
I live here in central New York, land of the Haudenosaunee, and anyway, this has been a real pleasant surprise because of the horrible things, such discouraging things going on in our country and around the world. And this was such a really nice presentation. really uplifting. The Judith, I'm not familiar with Judith or this approach to sharing information, but it came across really well to me as a real uplifting thing with the stories and the information and the upbeat presentation. So I want to thank you very much for that, and I assume it's recorded, so hopefully I can share it with others, and I hope we're all successful in doing what we need to do to make our environment a more positive place. But so thank you
Thank you.
again. Stay safe.
And I didn't even give him a quarter for that. Thank you. And I think Jake Han is glad to welcome you from New York to Massachusetts.
Has
Yeah.
there been any progress at all of stopping Roundup and Monsanto and Bayer? I mean,
So
for
this is
years, even before, I mean, I've heard stories of scientists, like their careers being destroyed for trying to say what the cancer effect was on from Roundup.
they're a corporation. They're not going to change anything but what we can do. So, for instance, I walked into my local Ace Hardware, really nice guys. I said, "Hi, would you consider stopping carrying Roundup? It causes cancer." And the guy said to me, "Yeah, but people ask for it." I said, "Well, you can be a leader or a follower. Maybe you want to try being a leader on this." And whenever I give this talk in my town, I ask people to go in and do the same thing because everybody needs a business, everyone has to make some money, but convincing him that he could do better with kind of offering honorable products could make an impression.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
When my parents lived in God's waiting room,
Florida.
yay! If she found one ant in her kitchen and she bought enough chemicals to deforest the Brazilian the Brazilian rainforest, and it was like, "Ma, put a little baking soda down. It's okay."
But Judith, I really love the presentation too. I just want to say it's not all or nothing. Like we have a lawn, but it's kind of wildish. I mean, we don't put chemicals down. And like last year,
water either.
we don't water a lot because we don't mow a lot. We leave it a little longer. And Fred, after No Mow May, left some beautiful patches of things that we liked that came up. So it's always, like a work in progress. But I personally find gardening really difficult. I don't feel like I have a green thumb. I've tried to put in perennials and it's not easy for me. I don't know why.
Oh, that reminds me of another question we had, if you don't mind.
Well,
So,
I just want to respond to that. So it sounds
yes,
like
sure,
by
go ahead.
process of elimination, you're rewilding. Because something
Yeah,
finds its
no,
way,
yeah,
you
yeah.
let it grow. You're rewilding.
But we keep some mowed because, I mean, there's also the issue of like ticks.
Like tick.
And we want to get through our yard, to the other side of it because we have woods and stuff. But so we do like to keep a short path because of things like ticks. So
Lyme disease is no fun. Yeah.
No fun.
yeah.
So speaking of critters, how are you doing with things like deer, groundhogs, bunny rabbits? They can eat a lot.
Oh my God, I've had groundhogs decimate my garden. They're so cute. At the beginning of the season, they're so skinny and they poke up, and you go, "Get out of here." And at the end of the season, they're like, "On everything you have grown." Um, they're larger creatures that chase them. They're funny sounds you can make. I mean, it's endless. But there's no one way to salvage from the critters. I mean, I try to grow stuff for the bunnies, just for them. Like I say to them, "Bunnies, there's the clover for you. Stay away from my lettuce." So what do? They come up to the clover, they go, head to the lettuce and eat it. Little buggers. But you're always going to lose something.
Yeah.
And they deserve to eat too. We have stolen most of their environments, so they can't do anything but be in ours.
I'm thinking now of one of the prescriptions in, I think it's my father was a wandering Aramean from Deuteronomy, and like something about like giving bringing like the first fruits to the temple or giving it to God, and it's like, well, maybe the rabbits and the coyotes and the groundhogs, maybe that's our modern version of it.
All God's critters got a place in the choir.
We have at my synagogue a very large lawn, and we don't use fertilizer or water or anything like that. The argument is financial. We can't afford it, which is great and quite happy with that. Um, but we have more of a problem with invasives like English ivy, which I've succeeded in weeding out large sections of English ivy. It's much easier to get rid of than grass, but it's generally under trees and shaded, and Atlanta is hot. And so I'm looking for things to grow in those places. Quick recommendations. I'll look at your handouts when I get them. Please make sure I get
Oh
them.
yeah,
Thanks.
English ivy is. Ugh. And I love people think it's wonderful to grow up the side of your house and then it starts to grow into the bricks. And then the safety and strength of your home can be questioned. Yeah, things we think are beautiful sometimes are a little bit of poison.
The big problem in Atlanta is that it grows up trees and then broadens out, and it actually can increase the surface area of trees
I've
three or four
seen that.
times. And then the winds come. And a lot of the trees that are taken down because they're covered in ivy. So that's an argument I have used.
And God, I was down there last year for a conference. You guys have kudzu all over the place. Oh, you can hear kudzu grow. It grows so fast.
So I guess I've been attempting rewilding for a while, but I'm running into two issues. One is not a ton of like some other things are coming up, but not nowhere near enough. Like there's still a lot of whatever kind of grass there is around here that's not so deep rooted and that grows too tall, and then I find myself in trouble with neighbors and with my daughter and so on, and eventually someone or other winds up mowing it down. So I'm wondering, like, how do I have to simply dig up all of that grass? How do I get started in a way that will not produce so much height and unruliness that it upsets everybody around me?
Okay, so you missed what the way to get rid of your grass is to lay cardboard or newspaper on it over the entire winter. And then when it comes back, it will be soil. And a lot of that will not be part of it. It would have been suffocated.
Mhm.
And you can start your seed throwing again.
So am I too late for the season?
Eh, never say never. That's okay. I used to embarrass my son all the time too. So your children learn to live with you and they learn to really appreciate you once they're out of the house. It's like their job to push against you when you're home, and then they get out in the world and you go, oh, that's who you are. Not bad. Cool. So they'll say, Ma, you're so embarrassing. But you live by your values.
And that is the perfect note to end on. We live by our values. I wanted to thank all of you for coming. I wanted to thank Judith and also Jackson for presenting. And this was great. I believe everybody should have received in their email a handout that Judith made available. But if not, I'm putting my email in the chat, and you can please reach out to me and I will be happy to distribute that. If you are interested in more content like this, please let us know.